All right, today I'm here with Jerrod Mink, real estate investor, house hacker, experienced wholesaler. But we're not going to talk about any of that. We're going to talk about a deal that he owner financed. Jerrod bought 3 duplexes back around the first of the year, 2 different times, all owner finance. So, Jerrod, thanks for joining me, buddy.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your duplexes. So, to start with, where are they located? City, state?
So it's in West Pensacola,
Okay.
Just north of the Navy base.
All right.
So surrounded by some of the military bases. So it's got a lot of potential for regular tenants.
Definitely.
So
Okay, cool.
it's a big plus.
Well, I'm going to ask a question I know the answer to here, but how did you find the deal?
I found the deal through networking.
Networking. Okay.
I met a pretty reliable real estate agent, and we had worked with him quite a bit in the past, and this fella approached me with a deal, and I ran the numbers on it. We actually went under contract, and it all worked out. So it was through Bigger Pockets that I networked, and it was actually Matt Jones here that is the one that brought the lead. So yeah, that's how we found the deal.
And so how the deal came to me was somebody responded to some of my marketing that I do to multifamily property owners, and they really just wanted to know, what are these properties worth? And the way that they're asking questions over the day or two that I'm talking to them and getting values, I felt like they had a lot of interest in selling them, although no interest in putting them on the market. So once I kind of dig out, they have somebody who's interested in putting in an offer, and it sounded low, especially once I had given them the value of the homes. So I said, well, what if I bring you, an offer that fits the terms, and outlined exactly what terms they wanted. And I said, who do I know that can close, right? Who, if I call them, they're going to know this is a good deal. They're not going to drag their feet. Really important when somebody brings you something off market, and they're going to close. So I called you with it. Tell us a little bit about the numbers.
Yeah, so the way that it was set up was, I think she was asking $95,000 per duplex, as is. She wanted to do a 20-year term at 6%, and that was that. So I ran the numbers on it, and with no money down, I mean, the only thing I had to pay was closing costs. So essentially commission for the guy that brought the lead. I mean, it's a killer deal. It was around maybe $5,000 per duplex to close it, so it was pretty solid. She was not flexible at all on the 20-year 6%. We
Right.
tried to play with that. We did end up getting the purchase price down to $90,000 per duplex, and then after the inspection came through, we'd found that these beauties had aluminum wiring throughout, still on fuse boxes, and some of the plumbing was at the end of its life. So yeah, we basically renegotiated a little bit. We asked for a credit for some of that,
Right.
and she ended up dropping it $5,000 per duplex, so ended up getting it all for $255 for all 3.
So you got 3 duplexes, you got 6 units, less than $15,000 out of pocket.
Correct.
I thought one of the keys, and you did a great job, just kind of agreeing and going with the flow. We structured the deal a little strange because you said, okay, what do you want to sell them? That's what I said to the seller. What's important to you? Closing date, financing terms, what do you want to net? And we built the offer based off of that. And I think kind of from the first time I called you, I said, okay, it's going to be a little strange, but kind of roll with me.
Right.
And, thanks for trusting me and letting me structure the deal.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, and I mean, back to the numbers, as far as the down payment stuff goes, like, to her, from what I gathered, she was interested in cash flow. Like, okay, how do I get the maximum amount per month
Right.
out of this investment, And to her, taking a down payment, wasn't as important to her as having a higher amount per month, So apparently that's not something you run into very often, a 0% down, kind of deal like that.
Yeah.
So definitely not gonna find something with the bank,
No, not zero down, and
as an investment. No.
you avoided paying probably about 3% in closing bank-generated closing costs per
Right.
unit. So it was pretty significant.
Yeah.
What's the long-term plan for those 6 units?
Long-term plan, it's a buy and hold play. So
Okay.
we're basically gonna keep paying on it, pay it down. There's an early payoff penalty that she requested, but I have no intention of selling it. So yeah, short answer, it's buy and hold.
Okay, awesome. Now, if you are going to give somebody advice for working an owner finance deal, what are some things that you would tell somebody else who's looking to kind of do the same thing?
The beautiful thing about seller financing is that you can work directly with the seller on the terms that they want. So if
Right.
you guys can't agree on a price, chances are you can agree on some terms, which might mean you can pay more if they're willing to take a lower down payment. That's the part of the beauty of all that. Not to mention the interest rate and all that you can kind of finick with.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I would work on figure out what it is they're going to do with the money. Like if they're dead set on a lump sum so they can go pay cash for an RV, then yeah, maybe it's not going to work out
Right.
the best. But if they're like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the money, then it's like, well, do you like this investment? Like, do you like the monthly cash flow? Is that what you prefer? Then yeah, that's something you guys could look into as an option. So
that's kind of the key question. What are you going to do with the money after you sell this?
right.
And sometimes it's kind of a strange question, but if you can find a way to ask it in a non-threatening way, you can find a way to solve some of their problem,
Yeah.
or some of their challenges.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Do you manage these yourself? Are you going to manage?
So I plugged into the numbers when I ran the numbers on it. I actually included property management.
Okay.
I'm in a point in my life where I have too many side hustles,
Sure.
and I've written it off as I'm going to hire this out because I'm going to be doing the tenants a disservice by trying to do it myself. So I actually hired local property management to manage them for me. So that's been a killer deal as well. So.
And kind of talk about your long-term strategy. So you mentioned that there were some things in the inspections that came up that were going to need attention. Maybe not today, right?
Yeah.
It's occupied,
Mhm.
but it was going to need attention long-term. So how do you structure your financials to allow you to put money in them in the future and kind of as things went out or as you were ready to rewire or whatever it was?
Right. Yeah. So I have a good CPA.
Okay.
And she's basically helped us out as far as kind of how we can structure this over the next couple of years. Each one needs to be rewired. So the insurance premium is absurd right now because it's got aluminum wiring, it's on fuses, and it doesn't have central heating and air, which there's not a lot of carriers that'll do that kind of thing. So if we rewire it, our premium is going to drop substantially. So
Sure.
what the plan long term, to answer the question, is basically we're going to rewire one per year for the next 3 years,
Right.
and then use that to write off some of the passive income that comes in.
So when you were
from the
deciding, is this a good deal, right? Do I want to do this deal? Did you look at numbers today and run numbers like 4 years down the road
Yes.
when you were done with the capital expenditures?
Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
yeah, because I mean, just the insurance cost alone,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to save a lot of money after the rewire. It'll pay for itself in not a whole lot of time.
Okay, awesome. Outside of the fact the owner's carrying the note, was there anything else that you did differently with this transaction? Did you say, oh gosh, I need to waive inspections or anything else, or did you proceed through it like a regular transaction?
Yeah, I mean, it was an as-is purchase, which I mean, in the wholesaling realm, that's something that's very common, so I'm familiar with that. But something that I bought personally, it almost had a different kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it made me a little nervous, but if the numbers work, the numbers work, and so we ended up going with it. But as far as what we did differently, I mean, we didn't have to do an appraisal.
Right.
Survey was optional. Like there were some things that there were less hoops to jump through,
Right.
than you'd have to do in the conventional financing realm that you and I have had to jump through
A lot more
times
hoops. A lot more
for
hoops
some of the other
regular
deals we've
banks.
done. Yeah, so
Okay, good deal. What's next for you?
I want to scale.
Okay.
I want to build a portfolio and generational wealth for our new son and our family. Eventually get to where we're financially free and Yeah, that's the goal.
Real estate's the chosen path for that.
It's a great vehicle to wealth for sure, and I understand it. So
Yeah,
it's something that I'm putting my heart and soul into.
fantastic. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes to sit down and talk to me.
Yeah, of course.
All right, man.
Thanks,
Enjoyed
man.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to bring you a little bonus content. I forgot to ask a few things because there's a guy walking around Bayview Park singing at the top of his lungs, and it's awesome, but a little distracting. Jerrod, you're house hacking not too far from here.
This is
You
true.
tell me this is a regular thing?
He's a regular around here. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, all right, man. I'm going to start singing back in a minute.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, so I wanted to ask some tips for people that are trying. I thought we did a good job negotiating based on the inspections.
Mm-hmm.
The deal was really solid, even with what we found, but we used some of that information to get a better deal.
Right.
So you maybe give some tips on how to negotiate based on the inspection.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So with the results of the inspection, like I said earlier, it came back as like the wiring is all aluminum, and it's on fuses, and the plumbing is about to be shot, the roofs are getting old, that kind of stuff. So for me, because there was a direct correlation between the electrical system that it currently had and
Right.
the insurance premium,
Right.
like that's the fire that's gonna burn me first, almost literally. And so for that one, I thought, well, let's get a couple quotes,
Right.
for a rewire and see what we're dealing with, and they all came out for that size duplex. I mean, it's pretty small, so it came out anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000, I want to say, for a full rewire. And so that's how we justified the renegotiation part of that was, hey, look, going into this thing needs $5,000 in attention,
Right.
to even get it up to where it's safe. Because I mean, legitimately, these aluminum wiring outlet, I mean, where it connects at the
There's a reason people don't
at
want
the
to insure
switches,
them.
yeah, they spark. So, yeah, that was something that needed to be addressed, and lucky for us, the seller was willing to drop the price a little bit to account for that. So,
And really, at first, I don't know if because we already knew each other, and I, met her first and brought a buyer, that she was a little wary of changing the price.
Sure.
It was kind of like a firm, no, the deal is the deal.
right,
But the quotes, you got quotes on rewiring, and then we got some quotes on insurance.
Yep.
And I think the big thing, a lot of times if you're dealing with somebody on owner financing, you might be dealing directly with the seller. So
yeah,
don't ask them to trust your word. Provide them information. We gave her a copy of all those quotes.
mm-hmm.
If she'd wanted to keep them and get it rewired, she could have, but that's not what she wanted. She just wanted to know you had a legitimate request
Right.
for a discount.
And if she says no and goes to another buyer, that buyer is going to get an inspection that says the same thing, and he or she's going to have the same concern as I
Sure.
did, and they're going to run into it all over again. So,
Yeah.
so you got a dedicated buyer, you got someone here that's motivated, ready to do this thing. What are you going to do?
Right.
And that negotiation tactic worked out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. And then, all right, so you said you want to scale. That's where you're going to
Sure.
go from here. For, anybody who wants to know what that means in the context of real estate investing, what does that look like for you, and, kind of what's that general direction?
Yeah. So when I say scale, what I mean is like I started with a single family home that
Mhm.
turned into a rental, and then got a couple duplexes as rentals, and
Right.
then when I want to scale, like the next step essentially after this bundle of 6 that we got is jumping into commercial real estate, where we're talking small multifamily apartment
Mhm.
complex. Anything between probably 5 and 50 units is my target area for what I'm looking for now.
Okay.
But yeah, eventually just kind of scaling up on cash flowing units that are going to bring us that generational wealth that I'm looking for.
And the goal is what, to have enough cash flow that it takes care of your lifestyle?
Yeah. Yep.
And then, of course, if the cash flow takes care of the lifestyle, you're going to have tax benefits and appreciation and
Yep.
all sorts of other real estate benefits.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, this set of duplexes, for example, will be paid off in 20 years or less.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had our first child,
Yeah.
and so by the time he goes to college, these things will be paid off, and if I need to, we can pull some money out and pay for college up front,
Right.
do whatever, and then again let the tenants kind of pay that down. But yeah, it's an amazing vehicle to wealth, and that's why I want to scale.
Okay.
Bottom line, yeah.
Very cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why would somebody want to own or finance a property instead of just getting their money, right? For the total value of the 3 of those buildings was $255,000. Why wouldn't they want a check for that, cash, instead of taking, $500 or $600 a month per building?
Well, so for some people, like, the lump sum isn't as important as the monthly payments,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, over time they're going to make more, so they're getting interest on those payments. So it's a good tactic to basically keep that investment in a way, and you still have some collateral. So, for example, this seller was she has a first lien position on the property. So
Right.
if I stop paying her, she can foreclose on me and take the property back.
Mm-hmm.
And keep whatever I paid her up to that point. So that's a benefit for her. And then obviously on the con side, if I was a scumbag and didn't take care of the property, didn't pay
Right.
any of the taxes, didn't keep the property up, didn't mow the lawn for 2 years essentially,
Mm-hmm.
she'd foreclose and end up with a property that's in bad shape. Which again, it's a con, but that's something you can do by getting a deal through someone that you trust and
Right.
doing your due diligence, and not getting into a bad deal.
Well, and the seller can mitigate some of that risk by getting a down payment.
Right.
If you had 20% down and you end up with that 20% and your property back in 2 years, you probably came out okay.
Yeah.
Depending on, but she wanted to maximize her cash flow. So it
Yeah,
was a little bit
yeah.
different deal. But that's the great thing about, I think, taking payments is you're not going to show a $250,000 hit on your taxes.
Yeah,
Right? When
for
she
sure.
filed taxes for this year, I'm sure she did not have to show the full value
Yeah.
of those sales, which if you've depreciated them over 20 years and they're paid off, that could be a pretty expensive tax bill.
Yeah, this is true.
Okay. And then any other cons to seller financing? Any cons for the buyer, I should say, to seller financing? I think we talked about cons or pros for the buyer. I mean, they're pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, so cons for the buyer, there's a chance the interest rate might be higher
Okay.
than you could get through traditional financing. But in a case where you can negotiate for 0% down,
Mhm.
I mean, that's a trade-off that I personally was willing to make, because the numbers still work. So
Sure.
that can be one of the cons, I think, as the buyer. But yeah, just got to run the numbers.
Seems like on the pros and cons list, the pros come
There-
out pretty heavy.
There are a lot of pros to seller financing. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Very cool. Well, hopefully the people watching can find their next seller finance deal or first seller finance deal, and
Yeah,
we'll get out and try to find some more for us.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.